Good morning to everybody. I am indeed grateful to APB for inviting me to share my thoughts on a very important topic of the day. The topic is what strategies should be adopted by Sri Lanka to regain its economy, which had been very badly hit by the COVID-19 pandemic. And in this particular presentation, I would like to focus on the multi-factor approach which Sri Lanka should adopt in order to attain this particular goal. Let me begin my presentation with the qualification. That qualification is the year 2020, which has just passed, is a write-off year for Sri Lanka. That is because Sri Lanka's economy had been ailing for some time, but it was worst hit by the onset of COVID-19 pandemic in March 2020, crippling almost all economic activities. As a result, there has been a number of negative manifestations in the economy. Let me take you through some of these important negative manifestations. One such negative manifestation was the contraction of the economy by 3.6% according to the Department of Census and Statistics, but this contraction could have been as high as 6 to 7% according to independent analysts. On top of this, Sri Lanka's external debt problem became acute, creating fears among investors that Sri Lanka, for the first time in its history, would default its foreign loan obligations. This was further complicated by another negative manifestation in which Sri Lanka's foreign reserves started dwindling, putting pressure for Sri Lanka rupee to depreciate in the market. At the same time, Sri Lanka government's budget went out of control with the reduced revenue and enhanced expenditure program. In order to sort out the budgetary problem, government resorted to getting the banking sector to print new money to finance its activities rather than getting the taxpayers to pay taxes to finance them. As a result of this negative manifestation, Sri Lanka's balance sheet in year 2020 has been corrupted. When a commercial bank has such a balance sheet, what that commercial bank would do is to clean the balance sheet by writing off the non-performing loans. Similarly, Sri Lanka's economy also has these non-performing activities, and in order to rebuild a new nation, Sri Lanka's economy has to be written off in year 2020 so that we could start a new economy in year 2021. Therefore, year 2021 should be the rebuilding year of Sri Lanka's economy. But for this rebuilding activity, Sri Lanka should have a different kind of an approach. That approach should necessarily be a multi-pronged approach. That is because, given the vast array of economic issues faced by Sri Lanka today, a single tool cannot resolve all these issues. This is similar to a motor mechanic having a box of so many tools, so that when he has to repair an engine, he can use all the tools in his box to repair the engine. Similarly, Sri Lanka's economic policymakers should have a box of so many tools, in other words, a box of so many economic strategies in order to resolve the current economic problems. There are certain essential strategies which Sri Lanka should adopt as a part of this multi-pronged approach. Let me take you through some of the important strategies here. One such strategy today is to have a clearly announced time frame for exiting the restrictive economic policies which Sri Lanka had introduced to its economy during the time of the COVID-19 pandemic as a temporary measure. These restrictive policies took the form of controlling interest rates, controlling prices, controlling the exchange rate, controlling imports, and controlling foreign exchange, and so forth. These types of restrictive economic policies would work when an economy is in a crisis by delivering a shock to the economy. But if it is prolonged and retained beyond the required time frame, the shock becomes unbearable and it would start hurting all economic activities, preventing the economy from returning to the long-term economic growth path. Today, Sri Lanka crucially needs to return to the long-term economic growth path, and therefore there is no place for the restrictive policies in the macroeconomy today. As a result, the government should have a clearly announced time frame for exiting the restrictive policies so that the members of the public would know when these policies are removed from the economic system. Another important strategy which Sri Lanka should follow in the multi-pronged approach is the restoration of macroeconomic fundamentals in the economy. What we mean by macroeconomic fundamentals is to have the right aggregate demand, the total demand in the economy, right aggregate supply, the total supply in the economy, right prices, the interest rates, general prices as reflected by the inflation rate and the exchange rate and so forth. When the economy is having these right types of prices and right type of conditions, the economy is in an equilibrium situation with no incentive to move away from the equilibrium position. Such an equilibrium is necessary for people to take a longer term view of the economy rather than the short term. It is essential for a country to attain the long-term economic prosperity because people would take a long-term economic view of the economy. Economy is also like a human body, and when one part of the human body is in pain, all other parts will also become dysfunctional. Similarly, when one sector in the economy, say the external sector or the fiscal sector or the monetary sector or the real sector in the economy is in pain, all other sectors also would be in pain. That is why it is necessary for Sri Lanka's economy to return to the macroeconomic fundamentals. A third strategy which Sri Lanka should adopt today is to increase the government's revenue base. As I have mentioned earlier, against a background of falling revenue and increase in expenditure, the government resorted to getting the banking sector to print new money to finance its expenditure programs. Financing expenditure programs with the newly printed money is not a long-term solution because it would lead to inflation, and therefore government would have to sacrifice all what it has attained in all other fronts if the inflation sets in the economy. Because of this reason, it is necessary for Sri Lanka to increase its revenue base at least to the level which it had prior to the COVID-19 pandemic, and continue to expand the revenue base through taxation and also through other non-tax revenue measures. A fourth strategy which Sri Lanka should adopt as a part of this multi-pronged approach is to have a 360-degree link with the rest of the world. What we mean by having a 360-degree link with the rest of the world is that Sri Lanka should have trade and economic relations with all the countries in the world without discrimination. Countries to the west of Sri Lanka, countries to the east of Sri Lanka, countries to the north of Sri Lanka, and countries to the south of Sri Lanka. By having such economic relations with all the countries in the world, Sri Lanka would become an inclusive and not an exclusive member of the global community. No country today can remain in isolation from others by confining itself to a single country or a group of countries. In this case, Sri Lanka can take an example from India, which started following a 360-degree approach in its relations with the rest of the world as from year 2015. Accordingly, India today has economic relations with all the countries in the world, including its rivals like China or Pakistan. Even in ancient times, during the time of King Parakrama I, Sri Lanka had such an inclusive economic relations with all the countries in the world. King Parakrama managed to deliver prosperity to the people of Sri Lanka by having such an inclusive economic relationship. Therefore, this is not a novelty for Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka should not consider any particular country or group of countries as enemies, but as economic partners. A fifth essential strategy which Sri Lanka should follow in this multi-pronged approach is to increase the productivity in all the sectors in Sri Lanka, agriculture, industry and services, by introducing new technology to those sectors. Sri Lanka's productivity levels are woefully low given the use of the low technology and also outdated methods of production. Today, it is necessary for Sri Lanka to convert itself to a creative economy by getting new ideas through new technologies. This is one of the essential requirements for Sri Lanka to put itself on a long-term growth path so that Sri Lanka can become a developed country within a single generation. Let me now further elaborate on some of the strategies which I have mentioned earlier. Let me start with the removal of the unproductive import controls. Import controls were introduced by the government during the time of COVID-19 pandemic because there was no any other option available to the government at that time. But import controls are unproductive because import controls would lead to cutting the prospective economic growth also in the future. This is because Sri Lanka's import bill is mainly made up of in raw materials and capital goods, and the consumption goods would constitute only about say 20% of the total import bill of the country. Even if we cut down the entirety of the consumption goods, it would lead to a massive social and economic disorder in the country, and therefore it cannot be done. Therefore, Sri Lanka cannot further cut the imports without cutting the growth prospects of the country, which is a much needed policy objective of the policy authorities. Also, import controls would lead to corruption and malpractices and immoral practices, and as a result, it would be difficult for the authorities to enforce import controls effectively. This is the case when Mrs. Bandaranaike introduced the strictest import control regime from 1970 to 1977. During that period, despite the fact that almost all the imports had been controlled, there had been the biggest smuggling business also in operation in Sri Lanka. As a result, Sri Lanka cannot depend on import controls anymore as a part of its economic policy strategy, and Sri Lanka should therefore revert back to the uh, free trade as soon as possible. For that purpose, Sri Lanka should have a time frame for exiting the import controls. Another policy strategy which needs further elaboration is the requirement that the government should immediately change from bank financing to tax financing. As from the beginning of year 2020, the government had introduced a very attractive tax concessionary regime to income tax payers and the value-added taxpayers. As a result, the government revenue had fallen significantly during year 2020. To compensate for the fall in the revenue, the government had resorted to getting the banking sector to print new money and grant advances to the government. For instance, during the 11-month period from December 2019 to January 2021, the government had borrowed a total sum of rupees 2,417 billion on a net basis from the banking sector, which includes the central bank and commercial banks. Now, this has to be compared with the total increase in money supply during this period. The total increase in money supply had amounted to 1,908 billion Sri Lanka rupees, which people normally refer to as money printing. The total borrowing of the government is about 1.26 times of the total increase in money supply, and therefore government had been the sole contributor to increase in the total money supply in the country. Such an increase in money supply by about 25% would lead to macroeconomic imbalances in the form of depreciation of Sri Lanka rupee further, dwindling of the foreign reserves, and creating deficits in the external sector and so forth. Therefore, that has to be stopped immediately. At present, the government authorities are of the opinion that the printing of money has not led to inflation in Sri Lanka, but that is a misleading indicator because the Colombo Consumer Price Index does not reflect the actual and true price increase in the country because of the variety of price controls which the government had introduced. As a result, the CCPI is a misleading indicator today. Given this situation, government should immediately change from bank financing to tax financing as a strategy for financing the government activities. What this means is that the government should go back to revenue generation. Because of the attractive concessions offered to income tax payers and the VAT payers, there has been a significant decline in the revenue of the government in year 2020. For instance, during the first 11 months of the year, the total loss of revenue compared to the revenue reached by the government in the previous year has been some staggering 491 billion Sri Lanka rupees. When prorated, this would exceed even rupees 500 billion for the whole year. Since the same tax regime is in force in year 2021 and beyond, the government cannot expect to an increase in the total tax revenue significantly during the period beyond 2021 as well. This cannot be tolerated, and there's a necessity for the government to go back to a tax regime which would generate more income for the government. Otherwise, the government has to either cut down its expenditure programs or print new money to finance its expenditure programs. Either way, it would be disastrous for the macroeconomic regaining Sri Lanka. As we have mentioned earlier, Sri Lanka should consider all the countries in the world as its economic partners and not as economic enemies. There's a section of population today in Sri Lanka which believes that the rest of the world is there to exploit Sri Lanka's natural resources and introduce a new colonial system of economic governance in the country. This has to be stopped. Given the present situation in Sri Lanka should consider itself as a beggar, and everybody knows that beggars are not choosers. In this sense, the present animosity against India or China by some section of population has to be stopped. If Sri Lanka wants to develop itself as a developed country within the next generation, what it should do is to get the benefit from all the countries which are there to offer assistance to Sri Lanka. So this is a must, and it should be part of the important economic policy strategy which Sri Lanka should follow in this multi-pronged policy approach. Then there is the necessity for attracting technology to improve productivity in Sri Lanka. To attract technology, one quick step which Sri Lanka can take is to attract foreign direct investments with new technology, so that Sri Lanka would get the access to technology without any difficulty. But at the same time, Sri Lanka should endeavor to develop technology from within the country by supporting the universities and the research institutions involved in technological development to come up with new technological developments. For that purpose, the educational system has to be completely overhauled, and instead of going by the old system of education, the new education system should emphasize on introducing what is now known as STEAM, science, technology, engineering, creative art and mathematics, into the curriculum, so that the students will become talented right from the school levels to the university levels. This is a must which, if Sri Lanka wants to develop itself as a newly developed country, and this is one of the multi-pronged approaches which Sri Lanka should adopt in order to regain its glorious previous economy. As a final point, I would like to emphasize here that Sri Lanka should endeavor to unite all the people in the country as a single nation. The unity of all the people is Sri Lanka's strength, and people are divided, the Sri Lanka is also divided. It is necessary for Sri Lanka to become a developed country by making all Sri Lankans as partners of economic development, irrespective of the race, ethnicity, religion or language. This is a must, and this has to be done as the topmost priority in the multi-pronged approach to development in Sri Lanka today. I have come to the end of my presentation now, and thank you very much for listening to me.